Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to put a set of data into a TI-84 calculator and create a box and whisker plot with it. And after that I will show you how to create a histogram with that set of data. So the first thing I'd like you to do is go to Stat from the main screen, and we are going to go down to Clear List, which is line 4, so you can scroll down to line 4. Press Enter, and I'm going to choose second L1. That's right there above the 1. And Enter. Okay, and it says Done. And what this has done is when I go back into Stat, and I see the cursor is on Edit, I'm going to press Enter. Any numbers that were in list L1 are now cleared out. There probably weren't any in there, but it's always a good idea to remove any other data that might be in there to make sure that you are only graphing your data that you put in. Okay, so from any screen really, let's also go to second stat plot and make sure all our plots are off. If they're not off, let's say one of these are on, you could either turn it on by turn it off by going in there, or we could scroll down to line 4, which I'll go ahead and demonstrate, and that will turn all 3 of those plots off. I press Enter twice and I'm done. Okay, so let's go back into Stat, Enter, and we will start entering this data. So these are representing pulse rates of students sitting at their desk. So 68, 68. You can just enter these, and you can probably enter them a lot quicker with your fingers than I can with mine on a mouse on a computer screen. And I'll probably not even use the whole set, but I'll use enough of it that we can get some variability here. And okay, we are almost done. Now, anytime you enter some numbers in your calculator, they will remain in this list until you either delete the list or clear the list of anything, as we did when we began. So it will retain these numbers, and you can see I've got 20 students in there. It says 21 here, but that's because this is on space 21, so it's waiting for my next entry. I've actually got 20 students entered into their pulse rates. Okay, and like I say, this will stay in there, pretty much forever until you decide to delete it by clearing that list. So let's go second quit to get back to the main screen. All right, I like to do things from the main screen. I'm going to clear that screen. The other thing I'm going to do, since on this simulator, this calculator emulator, I should say, it does show me a lot of different screens, and I see I have some functions in here, and I don't really want those to show up on my graph either, so I'm going to go into y equals, and I don't need them. They were just something we were doing in class, so this was x squared plus 2. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. There's y equals x. I'm going to delete that. But if you have any functions in there and you don't want those to show up, I would suggest clearing out this area too. The other thing you could do is just unhighlight it. You see where it's highlighted? You could just go click on that and change it to where it's not highlighted, and then it won't draw lines over your graph. Okay, so let's go second and quit. Let me show you a few things we can do with that data. One of them is I can actually go in here to Stat, and I can scroll to the right where it says Calculate, and one variable statistics, and if I press Enter, go second, L1, Enter, it'll give me the mean of that set of data, the sum of x, all these things, sample standard deviation, population standard deviation. But the other thing it gives me that might be of use to you in this unit is it tells me there's 20 data points there, and then it also gives me the minimum value, Q1, the first quartile, median, Q3, and the max value. So you could make a box and whisker plot just from this, but we'll do it on the calculator. Okay, so let's go to second, y equals, this is the y equals button, stat plot. Okay, and we're going to choose plot number 1, which it's already highlighted. So press enter, and we want to press enter again to turn that on. Okay, then I am going to go over here to this box and whisker plot right there. So we're going to scroll over, oops, let's stay on, scroll down to highlight those. There we go, and I'm going to choose that box and whisker plot, and my values are in L1, so that's fine. I'm going to leave the frequency at 1, and actually it doesn't really matter what color it is. If you've got a black and white, it's going to be that. Okay, so that's all there is to it. The other thing I'd like to note is, since my low value was 68 and my high value was 110, I'm going to set my window, okay, my X minimum value, I'm going to put it at 50, and let's go X max, I'll just say 120, right? I can leave Y at -10 and 10, that's fine. And if we graph that, we can see now we've got that box and whisker plot. If I press the trace key, okay, it starts out by showing me the median is 76, and I can scroll over, and my Q1, my first quartile, ends at 70.5, and my low value, etc. So I can use these to scroll back and forth. All right. Now, all right, so how about a histogram? In fact, let me change this. I'm going to go back to my window, and I'm going to drop down here to the Y minimum, and I will put 0 for Y minimum. Let's see how that looks. Okay, and I think I'll put the histogram right in here. Okay, so let's, with the same set of data, so let's go to second, stat plot, and this time choose plot number 2, and we'll enter that area. We'll enter that menu, turn it on, and for histograms it's going to be this one right here. Looks like a bar graph, but we know it's not. It's tells us the frequency, so if I choose that, okay, so it's also L1. Now, what I have to decide on my histogram is how wide I want the boxes, and this is the way, and also how many boxes, how many classes or bins. Sometimes you will hear them referred to as classes, sometimes you will hear them referred to as bins, sometimes boxes, but it's just the width on the x-axis here. So I usually take my high value minus my low value, and divide it by how many classes I want and round up. So I've got 110 minus 68, so that's 42. And we'll say we want five bins. Okay, so 42 divided by 5, that's going to be 8 point something, so we're going to round up to 9. So what I do is I go into the window, and in this case, my X scale, I have to do it this way. And I'm going to change that to 9. Okay, and that's going to be my class width, or my bin width. And presuming I turn that on. Okay, so now the other thing I need to do that I see here is I'm going to need to expand my Y max. So I'm going to make that 20, although it probably doesn't need to be that high. Okay, there we go. So here's a histogram of this data. You can see most of the data is over here since my students were sitting down, and most of them would have a low pulse rate sitting down. So you can see how that compares to this. Now, if I went back and I had these students stand up, this histogram would probably go like this. It would be the exact opposite in both these cases. It would be more bunched up on this end on the box and whisker plot, and it would be going up over here. You'd have these numbers being higher. Here I have relatively few students with high pulse rates. But once again, I could use the trace key. We can scroll down to the histogram function, and it gives us all our data here. So we go here, and we see from 68 to 77, there's 11 students, all right, in this area. So there's 11 students that fill up this range. Okay, and then if we went over to this one, from 77 to 86, there are 2 students. Okay. And this shows from 86, but it really means 87 to 95. So in this range, there are 4 students. And we have 1 student here. And that's it. That's how you do a box and whisker plot and a histogram on a TI-84. Hope you've enjoyed that. There will be many of these TI tutorials throughout the course.